What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, here with my beautiful wife, AKDI. Say hi, boo.
Hi everyone, I'm AKDI.
All right, and this is episode 46 of Simon and Acting Movie Reviews. We haven't done one of these in a long time, in about a week and a half. We took a little hiatus, but we're glad to be back at it with all y'all. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, this has been on the agenda for a while. This is a crazy documentary that I just stumbled upon on Movies to Watch called Tell Them You Love Me. If you want to watch it, the link is in my, Twitter feed. It's not hard to find. The links for all of the movies are there. And this is by far one of the best documentaries I've seen, in my life, period. Like, because it makes me question so many things. But we just finished watching it for the second time. How did you feel after we watched it?
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting concept. Also, like now that I'm studying psychology and also, neurodevelopmental and mental disabilities are part of my agenda in school, and it was definitely like very interesting for me to
Mhm.
watch. And like you said, it makes you ask a lot of questions about mental disabilities, about gender, about race.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just like so puzzling, honestly. Like we watched it for the second time today to refresh our memory, and I still don't have an answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Avery just jumped into the chat. Shout out to my guy, Avery Adams, as well. But for anybody who doesn't know what this documentary is about, man, just when I first discovered it, right, I started watching the first 15 minutes and I was like, whoa, 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 wait, I got to watch this with Acti because I was going to first watch this by myself. But when you find out what the premise, it's crazy. So, there's this guy. His name is Derek, and Derek is born with cerebral palsy. And Derek is unable to basically communicate, control his hands, his mouth, his speech patterns, anything like that. And he's able eventually to talk to this woman who is his teacher, whose name is Anna, through this computer program called Facilitated Communication. And then eventually they develop a relationship, quote unquote, which is which becomes like the controversy of this thing. Is it a consensual relationship or not? And then a bunch of things happen throughout the story, and I just find it fascinating. Derek is black, his teacher is white. He can't speak. She is supposed to be an educated person who is a specialist in this sort of field of dealing with developmentally challenged people. And there are so many just questions that arise from this sort of power dynamic in their relationship. And by the way, for anybody listening to this in the playback, moving forward in the review, we might use words like retarded or mentally handicapped or disabled or something like that. Please know we don't mean that to be like disrespectful to people who are born that way, mentally challenged or mentally retarded. But, we're just going to be real and raw and honest in our conversation about it. So, yeah. Anything you want to say, Acting?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just was asking ChatGPT some questions about cerebral palsy just
Mm-hmm.
to have more information on it, and it corrected me to say like intellectual disability or cognitive impairment instead
Cognitive.
of mentally retarded. So
Yeah.
I'll try to like be mindful of that, but it's just like a medical condition we're talking about, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing to put down those people.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, all right, well, let's walk through the story. So, basically, the movie opens up with this woman. Her name is Anna Stubblefield. They ask her like, how did you meet this man? How did you end up in this situation? And she's saying to the camera like, I'm not trying to rewrite history or anything. And I just got out of jail. So she's coming out of jail like Tupac doing a documentary. And is living thug life. And so then they go to Derek, and they show Derek's family. So Derek has a brother who's older than him, but Derek's brother ended up getting a PhD from Princeton or some Ivy League university. But he was raised by a single mother, and he also has a brother, a younger brother, whose name is Derek. And Derek, like I said before, has cerebral palsy. He can't talk. He can. He can only say a few words. He can't control his hand movements. He needs help to walk and everything like that. And so, they're going through their life growing up with, in this family dynamic like this: single mother, one disabled child, another child who's like a genius and stuff like that. And they're, black and poor. Like, what did you think about the beginning when, they were showing like the two different sides of the characters here?
I mean, I think the movie overall does a really good job of like trying to make you understand both sides, because they also like show us Anna's mother, and she's, I think, also in a wheelchair, and she's been working with, disabled people. So Anna also saw that her entire life and was affected by that and possibly inspired by that to be this teacher of race and disability, etc.
Hmm.
And then on the other hand, you have like this mother who's like struggling a lot with being a single parent and all of that. So it was definitely like I can see both sides, and I was trying to like empathize with both sides basically.
Yeah, at the beginning when you see Anna's upbringing and how her family was like dedicated to the struggle of helping disabled people, and then also Derek's family, how they sort of stayed strong after all the pressure of like their father leaving and Derek being mentally handicapped. Like, both families are actually like very admirable for what they did and what they do. You get what I'm saying? And
Definitely,
and
definitely, yeah.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, also Derek's brother is like an educated man, and it feels like even though like his mother has like the southern accent and whatnot, she also feels like educated because she had to be basically.
Yeah, it's like the mom, Derek's mom, comes across as like a good, wholesome woman, like just overall a strong, like I hate to use that stereotype, but a strong black woman, also with a good heart, good mind, good soul. You get what I'm saying? And she
Yeah,
loves her babies. She loves her
yeah,
babies.
exactly. It's like she loves her babies, she loves her sons, and also like I said, she didn't have a choice but to be a strong woman. So because yeah, like her husband left them and whatnot. So
Right.
like, what can you do in that position? You're just gonna
Mhm.
abandon your kids?
Right, exactly. But so basically, Derek's brother is going to university to get his PhD, and that's when he meets Anna. And Anna at this time is older. She's an older woman, but she's still like young looking, I guess. They didn't exactly give her age, or at least I don't remember her age. But she's teaching the class for Derek's brother, and he's studying for his PhD about race and disability and stuff like that. And then Anna shows this video in class about facilitated communication, which is a technique developed in Australia that allows people that are mentally handicapped that can't speak to type on a keyboard and say what they're actually thinking and feeling. And the images they show of facilitated communication make it look wonderful. Like, these people that we would write off in society as just being retarded or unable to actually function, they're writing like very profound things on the keyboard. And then they show that some of these people with facilitated communication even end up getting degrees and becoming like teachers and getting PhDs and stuff like that. And there was actually another woman that they showed here who had a speaking disability. I forgot her name. Do you remember that woman's name?
I want to say like Devona or something. I
Right.
forgot.
Right, right. Well, yeah, Devona or something like that. She's, speaking up on behalf of Anna and saying that, she believes facilitated communication works. And her, as a mentally handicapped person and physically handicapped person, she believes in the idea that, the people that we view as cognitively disabled, retarded or whatever, they are smart. It's just that they can't communicate. And Anna voices that same thing too. And
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't think she had any mental disabilities. She just had physical disabilities,
Mm,
right? Like her speech was impaired because of her like something in her brain, and like her handicap was only physical because she actually also had like some PhD or something like that, or
hmm.
she was a teacher or something.
Right.
But yeah, like that was very inspiring. And like you said, when you see like that video they show about the autistic girl and like how she was able to get like degrees and stuff like that through
Mhm.
assisted communication, it's like very promising. And at
Right.
the same time, we hear like Derek's brother talk, and he's saying things like, "Oh, like I always thought there was something in him."
Hmm.
Because he used to make like certain gestures in certain times, like he wanted to be involved in the discussion.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so it's like you also see like the family also has some sort of hope, like
Right.
about Derek as well, because they also told them that Derek should be institutionalized, but
Hmm.
instead they just like sort of involve Derek in their daily lives,
Yeah.
raising him like a normal person.
Right. Right. Well, they do you think they were raising Derek like a normal person? Because it seemed like they were raising him more like a baby sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, normal as it can be in
Hmm.
his condition, I guess. Like, yeah, they of course they have to put extra effort. Like they, I guess, he was in diapers, and yeah, they feed him and
Hmm.
stuff like that. Like because he cannot control his movement and whatnot. So, yeah, like as normal as it can be.
Right. But there were things that they tried to do normally. Like they showed pictures of like Derek going to prom, Derek going to the beach, going to church and stuff like that. So they involved him in normal things and he tried to have as normal of a life as possible. But I want to go back to the facilitated communication part because the first time I saw this film and I saw that, that ability for people who are viewed that way to be able to speak, that really touched me and it was like profound to me. And that's sort of like where I shut off the film the first time I watched it before I watched it with you and your friend for the first time too, because I was like, wow, that's amazing. And like acting needs to see this because that's really dope. And for somebody like me, like I think that all humans have something to contribute. Everybody has something special within them. But, how does that reconcile with the idea that, okay, there are some people that are born mentally handicapped? What do they have to contribute to the world? Are they dragging down their families or society? You get what I'm saying? But seeing facilitated communication made me feel like, oh, there's hope for that.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, everyone has something to contribute to the society. And also, also like you, I was affected by Anna's speech as well, because she said something like, just because society doesn't allow those people to communicate, and they expect those people to communicate their way, they're deemed as mentally retarded or
Hmm.
intellectually incapable.
Hmm.
So then, like, if there's just like a door that you cannot walk from because you cannot fit into the door, doesn't mean like you don't exist or something like that. She says something like that.
Yeah,
And I thought
yeah.
that was like really, a dope way of thinking about people with disabilities.
Hmm. I'm gonna be honest. Like I remember growing up in elementary school in Monroe, Louisiana, and at the school that we went to, there was also the special needs kids. So we would go to lunch and line up for lunch, and then we would also see the other line of the special needs kids, and a lot of them acted like Derek. Some of them were in wheelchairs. Some of them were like drooling on themselves and stuff like that, and others couldn't stop shaking. And I remember I used to be afraid of them. You know what I mean? But I also used to look at them and say, thank God that's not me. But now, after watching the part about facilitated communication the first time, I was like, what if secretly they were geniuses deep down inside? And looking at Derek, the thing I was thinking is like, what if in those people's minds is a normal human being like you and me, right? But they just have some ability or some disability that prevents them from putting their words together, making their tongue work, making their mind work. It's almost like a Black Mirror episode. You know what I mean? Like in that episode of Black Mirror where there's a person who dies, but then you can upload them into your mind and keep them there, but they can't speak to the world. So it's like you're just trapped in this body that doesn't work, but everything else functions. So that's what I was thinking. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like very painful to think that, those people might have great ideas, but like they're not seen like geniuses or capable people just because they cannot communicate. Like, I don't know, the first name can't comes to my head is Stephen Hawking, but Then also he got involved in the Epstein Island thing, so I don't want to even bring up his name. But like, yeah, but even with that, it was like people were like, oh wow, okay, he's capable of many things, you
Yeah.
know.
It's
And
like,
he's like normal, he's a normal guy who wants to have sex.
okay, well, we're not jumping there yet.
Yeah, yeah, but I also wanted to like, I also want to say that because I looked it up, like cerebral palsy is what Derek had, right? And
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily mean like a person who has cerebral palsy is not necessarily intellectually disabled.
Hmm.
It's just about movements and muscles and
Mm.
posture and things like that.
Mm.
But then I also researched, and by that I mean asking ChatGPT, that like between 30% and 50% of people with cerebral palsy also have some level of intellectual disability.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
there's like that co-occurrence, but it's not necessarily like that. But Derek was also like diagnosed mentally disabled.
Right. But the thing is, that sounds a lot like autism, right? Like in autism, there are some people on different levels of the spectrum or different
Yeah.
parts of the spectrum. And for a long time, we used to think, oh, somebody with autism or Asperger's has nothing to contribute and they'll just need to be taken care of by their families or the state for the rest of their lives. But now we have like savants, like some of the smartest people who learn sheet music just by one playthrough, or can memorize an entire book or something like that. Those people have autism to some degree, but their autism is almost like a mutant intellectual capability that allows them to be super smart on one thing. And that's what I was thinking for like Derek's case or any of those types of people's cases. Like, what if they have some superpower, but it's just locked inside of them? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know, I didn't have many encounters with, people with mental disabilities. Though, but I do remember I had like when I was in kindergarten, and this is like one of my only memories that I have in kindergarten, that we had also like a autistic girl, and I used to play with her sometimes because she used to like smile at
Mm-hmm.
me. So
Mm-hmm.
I would go next to her sometimes and she used to play with my hair, but then sometimes she used to pull my hair too, and it
Mm.
would hurt, and I was a kid as well. So I
Yeah.
would like when she started pulling my hair, I would go away basically.
Wow.
But yeah, but like yeah, I also like had that like watching this documentary, I also definitely gained a lot of insight about
Right.
like disability.
And one more thing about facilitated communication. The first time I saw it, and I promise we'll move on from this, but I was thinking about, what if I have a son or a daughter in the future and they're born that way? I would want them to have every possibility to be able to talk, walk, communicate, do something, especially with their mind. And, seeing facilitated communication on the screen, it made me feel like, okay, there's a hope for even somebody who's born like that. You get what I'm saying? And yeah, that's all I wanted to say, like, about that part.
Yeah, but I said this to you the second time we were watching also, like, so facilitated communication is basically when someone like a guide holds like the person with the disability, like holds their hand,
Hmm.
and then like guides them to a keyboard or like letters so they can like spell out words and make
Hmm.
sentences like that. And then sometimes like in the videos, sometimes we would see them supporting like through their elbow, but other times like they would hold their hands almost.
Hmm.
And I was thinking like, why isn't there a mechanism to do that without human contact,
Hmm.
like just something to support the elbow or the hand, and then they can like move it themselves, maybe, I
Right.
don't know.
Right. Well, that gets into the fishy part of this facilitated communication thing. So let's move on to the part where Anna meets D Man. So, or Derek. D Man, I'm jumping ahead of myself. But basically, Derek's brother says, I have a brother with cerebral palsy, and I would like for you to help him, Anna. And Anna says, I'll do it, sure. And so then, Anna meets D Man or Derek the first time that, he comes into her office, and she puts a bunch of pictures on the table. And basically, Derek cannot hit the right picture. When she says touch the chicken, he doesn't hit the chicken. When she says touch the tree, he doesn't hit the tree. But then when she is able to hold his hand or hold his arm like under his armpit or something like that, then he's able to like control his hand and hit the right place. Then she puts a bunch of letters on the table like C, A, T, and like B, and like is able and asks Derek like, okay, how many words can you make? And so then he hits a few: cat, bat, hat, whatever, and stuff like that. But then she says, okay, he obviously has some knowledge of words and some knowledge of like, nouns and things like that. But it's different to press one key, right? And press one letter. So she puts him on a keyboard, and at first he doesn't do well, but then she switches the keyboard to like a uppercase letter keyboard, and then he's able to like spell out words and start to talk and stuff like that. And eventually she, starts putting Derek on the facilitated communication with the keyboard and is able to communicate with him. And then the reason I was saying D Man earlier is that one time Derek comes in with the session with Anna, and Anna asks Derek, "What do you want us to call you?" And Derek types, D Man. And Anna asks his mother, like, "Who is D Man?" And then his mother says, "Oh, yeah, a great teacher in the past used to call Derek D Man, and that's what his nickname has been." And Anna didn't know that before. And so moving forward in the review, we might refer to Derek as D Man or something like that. But what did you think about, their first interactions together?
Like watching the whole thing, I really thought the first interactions and the first things that Derek was writing were real, because it's like the first time they're meeting, right? So it would kind of be hard for Anna to influence him so much. And like the stuff that he wrote about himself that Anna didn't know, that shows like, yeah, like he was able to communicate on this very basic level. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, so that's why also one of the reasons I believe that D Man has like some capability of writing and doing things.
Mm-hmm. Now, as well, I'm not going to say that yet because we're not going to talk about FC yet. But my first opinion about them meeting is like, yeah, it did seem real. It did seem genuine. It seemed hopeful, and you were like, okay, where is this documentary going? Like, is he going to open up and they're going to, finally get Derek to become intellectually successful and live a normal life? What's going to happen next in this doc? And so moving forward, Anna and Derek start to, work together more. And through the facilitated communication, Derek or D Man says to Anna, like, I want to go to university like my brother. I want to be able to become a scholar like him. And his brother's, at first supportive. His mother is supportive too. Everybody starts treating or looking at Derek a bit different. At the beginning of the film, they're sort of treating him like a baby, and now they're like, okay, now he has all these new possibilities in front of him because he can talk. And Derek starts, going with Anna to places alone. They start going to conferences together and like movies together and stuff like that, to learn about, facilitated communication and stuff like that. And as they, continue to be together, they enroll Derek into a class called African American History. And D Man sits in the back of the class while Anna is like controlling his arm. And D Man is like typing and writing, and then Anna raises her hand whenever Derek wants to say something in class. One time, though, D Man is like saying something, and then Anna wants to change it, but D Man doesn't want it changed, but she changes it anyway. And then when she says what he didn't want her to say, they have a fight together. What did you think about that part?
I don't know. Like after the class part, like I don't know, because Anna was also like a professor of race,
Hmm.
and she obviously also knew a lot about race and whatnot. So I don't know, like if, and but then there's also like a good possibility that Derek would want to choose a class like that as well, because
Hmm.
he's black and he might be interested in that. And yeah, like it's confusing for me. I don't know if like Anna was creating these like, you know disagreements in her head,
Hmm.
because that might also be a possibility. Not that like she's conscious of that, like what she's doing, but it might even be just unconscious, and she might be like having these discussions with herself basically.
I think now just might be a good time for anybody who's listening to wonder why you're saying Anna might be having fights in her head. It's because of this. Later on in the movie, we find out that facilitated communication is not recognized as a real way for people with cerebral palsy or any mental disorder to talk. Like, all the psychologists around the world disregard it. All the major, institutions that deal with disabled people disregard it. It's not viewed as legitimate. And that's why, watching this film, maybe for the second time, you might be like, okay, was Anna fighting with herself? Was Derek actually talking? Was he even aware of what was happening around him? That's why, I just wanted to fill that gap in.
Yeah, and like the reason, like the critic of facilitated communication is that like there's the influence of the facilitator. So like if you're holding someone's hands every single day like for hours and hours, and you're typing words for them, then they might direct you into certain words or letters without even like wanting to do that. And it's like not really coming from the person itself, but really coming from the facilitator. And I
Hmm.
think that's like the biggest critique of it. So that's why I also said, yeah, was Anna fighting with herself?
Yeah. I'm still going to speak from the perspective as if I watched this for the first time. So, the first time I saw that scene where Anna was fighting with Derek about what to say in the African American history class, I was like, okay, this is her, showing her, like, I don't know, her I don't. Is her white supremacy, like her white privilege over Derek. Like, no, I know the right thing to say better than you, black man, in this African American history class. That was my impression of that first scene, the first time I saw it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing that was interesting about that class situation is that Anna would not be with Derek when he was doing his homework. So when he had to write essays, he had to go with another person who would do the facilitated communication. And the other person didn't read the books, the other person wasn't in the class, and they only helped Derek type. So when Derek, wrote his book reports for class, it was all supposedly from him because the other person said, I wasn't there in class, I didn't read these books, so I don't know what was happening. So that's one of the big mysteries of this film. If you watch it the first time, that gives you more validation to think that facilitated communication is real. If you watch it the second time, you're thinking, what just happened there? Is she lying? Did she actually read the books, or is that proof that FC is working? I don't know. What did you think of that?
Yeah, that's definitely like the biggest mystery in my mind as well, like because he didn't have any relationships with this other helper girl, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And she didn't know the topic, so it's like how come like you can do that? And it's also like so much of a difference, like he was diagnosed as mentally retarded. A person who is mentally retarded maybe like write some sentences
Hmm.
and try to express like what he wants, like I don't know, food or how he's feeling and whatnot. But there's like writing a paper for African American studies class is
Hmm.
something like a whole different level.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, like I don't think she can fake that or he can fake that. And, it's just like too surreal to think that there was like some sort of transference or facilitator influence in there.
Yeah, yeah. Once again, I think about that part a lot too, because that is the big mystery. You know, um, I you know, on one hand, I want to believe FC is real, but then on the other hand, the world is telling me it's not, right? But I think about those other people with special needs at the beginning of the film. Most of them were women, by the way, two white women, by the way, who got their degrees and stuff like that through FC, right? And I'm thinking like Derek is on his path to do the same thing, and the perception of him now at that point in the film is like he is mentally capable. He can do the work. He can write the papers. So that can help him get to that, promised land, that other side, right? But, if the perception of him is that he is incapable of doing it, he'll never be able to do it because society won't let him. So when I think about that part where the writer is helping him and stuff like that, that I feel like I want to believe that's proof that he does have the ability to do it. He can speak, he can do it. You get what I'm saying? Does
Yeah,
that make
that
sense?
yeah, it does make sense. I mean, and like, like you said before, also like how his family saw him also like changed a lot,
Hmm.
because now like his brother and his mother were proud of him for being able to go to school, and being able to be like intellectually capable basically, and like they were treating him like he can understand, and he has feelings and thoughts that he can communicate.
Hmm.
And yeah, like that sort of environmental effect would have a very big like influence on what you can do, and also what you think of yourself
Hmm.
as well. Like if you're
Right.
told you're incapable of something your whole life, then you're
Mm.
gonna believe that and do that.
Yeah, exactly. But
So
then
yeah.
another thing I think about for the situation with writing the papers for the African American history class is that if the facilitator was a black woman, she could have helped.
I think,
Like,
I mean, her name was Sharonda.
yeah, that's a black name.
Yeah.
Like, most black people have a general understanding of our history and our culture and stuff like that. So like helping him out, Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, you know what I mean? Just helping
Yeah.
him out, type that out. That
and
wouldn't be too hard.
and she also said like towards the end, when they take her like when they interview her for later,
Hmm.
she also said that what D-Man wrote was very similar to what her friends wrote who were taking the same class. So I
Mm.
was thinking, okay, did she read her friend's paper
Hmm.
before she helped D-Man, or
Hmm.
was that later? Like, could she have like gotten some information through her friend's papers
Yeah.
and then like helped D-Man? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. This is technically a true crime documentary, but what sets this true crime documentary apart is that you walk away from it, debating whether the crime actually happened. And also, secondly, more questions than answers after you watch it, no matter how many times. Because I never thought about that, like what you just said. Like, did she read her other friends' papers? Does she already have background knowledge on African American history? So many things could be in that, pot that stews that thing together. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And that's also the fact that like his brother said like they wanted to be able to facilitate D-Man as well, but
Hmm.
they were unsuccessful. Like when Anna was writing with D-Man, she could write sentences, but when his mother or his brother tried to help him, like he would like push away his mother's hand, and he wouldn't get like sentences, maybe barely words.
Now, a part of me, when I heard about that part, is like, okay, it takes extreme amounts of patience to deal with mentally handicapped people. So, Anna, like they said in the film, has this extraordinary ability to just be extremely patient, understanding, empathetic, and caring. But, you know, can the same thing be said for D Man's family? Now, on one hand, they show them in the film like caring for him like above and beyond, like the best family ever for a mentally handicapped person. But is it the same when the cameras are off? You get what I'm saying?
I mean, I think so. I mean, that's what I want to believe, at least right now, from what I saw.
Hmm.
And like the part of me that doubts that maybe why Derek didn't want to like communicate with his mom and with his brother
Hmm.
is like sort of the reason I said before, that because they believed he was mentally incapable for years.
Hmm.
So that's the way they kind of treated him. So
Hmm.
maybe he didn't feel encouraged, and he didn't feel like, he can communicate with them. And he felt that way with Anna. But then also, like, no matter what happened with his family, Derek, I think, also loved his family too.
Yeah.
And it was obvious that, like, his brother cared about him, his mother cared about them. So
Mhm.
it's kind of weird that he's unable to communicate with them.
Right. It's sort of like talking to your parents, right? Like you only say a few things to your parents, but you tell your friends everything. So
Yeah.
maybe it was that sort of thing. But I was also thinking maybe, Derek still has like a mental handicap that doesn't allow him to speak to other people to some degree. I don't know. I feel like I'm being overly lenient and generous to the idea that Derek can talk, other than the fact that FC could be false. But once again, I think that's the beauty of this documentary is that what do you want to believe? Do you want to believe that, you know, eh, mentally handicapped people are actually what we think they are, or are they something more? And so if you believe the latter, you'll probably end up talking like me throughout this review.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I believe there's something in Derek. Like, I don't
Mhm.
think he's completely, mentally disabled.
Mhm.
But at the same time, the more I talk about it and the more I dig into what happened, I feel like facilitated communication is kind of bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's get to the sex part. Let's get to the nasty.
Wow.
Let's get to what everybody came for if they saw this film. So, all right. But basically, a few things happen before the sex, but some nasty sex happens. So, yeah, Derek, after hanging out with Anna for some time, starts to act a bit funny with his family. So, like, there's a scene when Anna, Derek's mom, and Derek are in the car, and Mama is playing gospel and driving, and then Anna changes the radio to like classical music and says Derek wants to listen to classic. He doesn't like gospel anymore. And his mom was like, "What?" And then another time when his family was feeding D-Man chicken, fried chicken or something like that. And then Anna burst into the room and says, "What are you doing feeding him fried chicken? He's a vegetarian now." And stuff like that. And so basically, Anna was like, really trying to assert herself into D Man's life. And then one time, Anna and D Man are alone, and well, actually, a few things happened before that. Somebody asked D Man a question at a conference, and they say, "D Man, do you think you'll ever fall in love?" And D Man says, through facilitated communication, that I want to get married and fall in love, but that doesn't happen for people like me. And Anna says in the documentary, I wanted to say right then and there that he could have me, he could take me right then and there. I'm all yours, D Man. But Anna is married. Actually, Anna is married with 3 kids to another black man. Who is a normal, who by all accounts is probably a normal guy, probably a cool guy too. But yeah, Anna ends up, with D Man alone one time in Derek's house, and she says, "I love you, Derek," and Derek says, "I know, I love you too," and then they kiss, and then a few scenes later, D Man and Anna are alone, and D Man says, you know, they were kissing and stuff like that, but then D Man says, "Take off your bra, get naked." I'm gonna take control of the situation. I don't know, man. It was wild. Do you want to break down the sex scene? It was wild.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I have to say, Anna is just like so like irresponsible. First of all, like she's crazy. She's crazy. And yeah, like basically like and when we say D-Man says things, like he types things using Anna's hand.
Hmm.
And yeah, like basically also yeah, and after like they sort of tell each other that they love each other, they keep it low key. But one Sunday when like Derek's mom is not home and nobody's home, like you said, um basically Derek types like, "Oh, like I don't know if we can have, sex. I don't know if I can make love to you," and stuff like that. And then like yeah, like they basically go to like second base or something. Like he touches like her boob, I think,
Hmm.
and like she's naked in front of him, and he says something like, "I want to hold you like how other men could
Hmm.
hold woman," and then
Hmm.
she says like, "Oh, I feel whole held," and all this like weird stuff.
Hmm.
I don't know if anything happened then,
No, they had
but
sex then.
they did.
Yeah, they had
Okay,
sex.
so yeah, then they had like sex there. And I don't know like how that happened, because like the crazy thing for me is like when you look at Derek, he has like this movement that he cannot control,
Hmm.
right? And like his head is turning and maybe his hands are fidgeting and stuff like that. So I was imagining in my head like how would he kiss? Like not
Yeah.
as in like I wonder how is he good at kissing,
Well, she
but
said like it's hard for him to kiss.
yeah, like it's hard for him, but like but then also if you think of normal two people kissing, there's some sort of sign of consent, right?
Hmm.
You lean, you close your eyes or something, you pucker up your lips. And
Hmm.
Derek is like incapable of doing any of those things.
Hmm.
So it's like how do you get the sign? It's only from the writing part,
Right. Right.
basically, and then she would have to just take initiative and go ahead and kiss him.
Right. Now, there is some female privilege in this situation in the sense that, later on, I'm going to make some jokes that Derek was beating up the pussy. But if we really reverse this situation and said, this older man was with this, girl who was using facilitated communication with cerebral palsy, and then he tells us, yeah, she told me to take off my underwear and whip it out and stuff like that, we'd be like, that man is gross and bury him under the jail. But the female privilege in this case is that we typically don't think of men being capable of being raped. And in this case, you know, race and power dynamics also come in because Derek is a man, and men are usually the ones who penetrate women and stuff like that. And also, I think it's not forgotten in racist ass America that Derek still is a black man, right? And I think Anna is playing with this idea that okay, as a white woman, I'm still not going to be viewed as harshly for sleeping with this black man because in America, like black men are seen as the aggressors against white women. So I will be able to violate this man and possibly even get away with it because of the racial and gender dynamics between us, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm reaching with that, but that's what I was thinking.
I think it makes sense because it studied race, right?
Hmm.
She's a professor of race and disability. So
Hmm.
she would have to think about this. Like how are you going to be so like into that topic and not think about this?
Hmm.
So I feel like it does make sense, and I don't even want to say like she did it unconsciously, because once again, she should be aware of these things, these structures in America.
Hmm.
And yeah, like for me, the first time I watched it, I was sort of like with Derek. Like I was like, oh, look at him like having some sexual relationships. He has a girlfriend, so cute. But then second time I was watching it, I felt like she was taking advantage of him.
Hmm.
And I felt like and also the way she talks about it in the interview, she's like, yeah, like I was in love with him, so I did it. Like who says that?
Mm.
About a disabled person. Like you're there as a guide, as a facilitator, as a counselor almost. And it's so unethical, it's so like without consideration of the other person, because yeah, like I don't know.
But I'm gonna say this about Anna: whether it's bullshit or not, what's coming out of her mouth, she believes it. In my opinion, I wholeheartedly believe that she believes whatever she's saying. So if she says like I slept with D Man and it was consensual, she believes it. Now it's up for us to in society to still say that's right or wrong because a person could say, yeah, I slept with this 13-year-old girl and she wanted it too. Like no, like that's not okay under any
Yeah.
circumstances. You get what I mean?
Yeah, she definitely believes that like Derek was having consensual relationship with her.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just crazy because even if it like I don't know, even if like she's mentally capable of giving consent,
Hmm.
like he is a man, he's a 40-year-old man that
30.
never
He was 30.
30.
Yeah.
He's a 30-year-old man who never had any sexual relationship, or
Hmm.
probably didn't even watch porn, because how
Hmm.
can he?
Right.
So it's like unless someone shows him.
Right.
So it's like you have this person who isn't aware of sexual things.
Right. The thing is, though, like you and I will probably both say, like, we want mentally handicapped people to live as full lives as possible, right? You want them to eventually be able to have their own independence and freedom. But the thing about freedom and independence is that you get to have romantic relationships and sex. That's one of the benefits about being an adult. One of the big benefits of being a man or a woman is you get to have sex. So are you saying like, okay, think about this. Think about those other people in the film they showed that were mentally handicapped who got PhDs and master's degrees. Are you saying like they can get their PhD, they can get their masters, but they can't get no dick? Like what? They can't
No,
get no
no,
pussy.
those people were not like mentally retarded.
Yes, they were. That one girl who was like, "I want to see grandma." That girl, come
No,
on.
yes, I mean she had cognitive disabilities, but she had a high IQ, if that makes sense. Like
But
she didn't have a problem with her IQ,
through
but
facilitated communication is all we know because she couldn't actually like get it. Go ahead. Go ahead. I
yeah,
didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I mean, just like and most of them, like the woman who was also interviewing and was defending Anna, she had physical disabilities as well.
Hmm.
So it's like it's a different thing, and according to like Derek's diagnosis, he had a mental capability of like a 6-year-old or something.
Hmm.
So then how are you going to expect like, a 6-year-old's mind to give consent and think about like having sex and being an adult? He might
But
have the body of an adult, but if he has the mind of a child, then that's still like a very gray, like weird area.
okay, but y'all have to pick on what he is. Does he have the mind of a 6-year-old? Because if that's the case, don't put him in African American history classes at Princeton. Or if he doesn't have the mind of a 6-year-old, you have to consider the possibility that he should be able to explore different parts of freedom and independence being a grown man. So,
Yeah, I know. Like they should have did more before, like probably enrolling him into school and possibly just like when he was beginning his relationship with Anna. Like Anna said, "Oh, I'm gonna do like some initial tests," but then like she didn't do any tests regarding his incapabilities, and she just like straight on went with FC.
right. Well, that's the thing. Like she started off with a few tests and then they realized, or at least as far as she believed, he is able to read books and have interesting ideas and give his opinion about things through FC. So that's why they put him in the course. But the thing is, it seems like people want to say, oh, it's rape what Anna did to D Man because now this is something that they consider beyond the pale. I think to some degree there is some disgust people have with the idea of certain people sleeping with certain groups of people, right? There are people who are against international, interracial relationships. There are people who are against, guys who sleep with taller women. They look at that man as like, what's wrong with you? And they look at that girl as like, what's wrong with you? Just like two normal people. But if the girl is like 3 inches taller, they say that's weird. So I'm saying like the thing is like we look at D-Man's situation and we think it's impossible for anybody to be attracted to a 5'3", short, mentally handicapped black man. But Anna said he's hot. I want to hump him.
I
You get
know,
what I'm
but
saying?
like I didn't feel like that when I was watching it. I was actually like able to understand Anna because I also think that like intelligence and emotionally, being emotionally intelligent and also just like mentally intelligent is hot. Like it's attractive. And I can see why like she would also like being a person who dedicated her life to facilitated communication and people with disabilities. I can see why she was attracted to him,
Mm,
but I don't know if she was attracted to him or like this person she created in her head that she thought was him.
okay. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Because no, that is the big thing. That is the big thing. But I thought we were talking about this from the from the idea, at least, that there is some intelligence within Derek, within D Man. Putting
Yes.
putting putting if there is some intelligence within him, doesn't that mean that he should have the right to explore sexuality? Think about this. There's a 25-year-old man right now who everybody thinks is normal, but he still has the brain of a 15-year-old boy. Now, sleeping with a 15-year-old boy is illegal, but sleeping with that 25-year-old man is not. But you're saying because he has the mental capabilities of a 6-year-old in the body of a 30-year-old, it should be illegal to sleep with him. When saying,
Yes, if he is really mentally challenged, and if he really is has the mind of a 6 year old, then yes, I think it's rape, and I think it's he's not able to give consent because
hmm
he's still a child. But if he has any capability, if, like, he can write papers and whatnot, then in that case, I do think he should have the opportunity to have relationships, sexual relationships, and whatever with whoever he
but the
wants.
but the question,
But
but the problem with that is that facilitated communication is BS. It's not true. It doesn't work. So we'll never be able to know if he really does have the capability. We're just
yeah,
judging him on his appearance and how he acts as saying, okay, it's illegal for you to ever get pussy. That's really what happened to D Man to some degree. It's illegal unless you sleep with another person who we say it's illegal for the rest of us to fuck. You can't get no pussy.
I mean, yeah, because unfortunately, like, it's much worse to risk sexual trauma,
hmm
so, like, so am I just gonna assume that he's capable of consent,
hmm
and just, like, have people, rape him if he was my kid? Like, I would rather not have him not have sex than, like, traumatizing him with
Right.
sex.
Right. And in having this conversation, I understand it might come across as like crass or crude for me to be speaking this way about this, but I'm thinking about like we want to maximize freedom for as many people as possible, right? And in that circumstance, being an adult, as you reach certain ages, you should be able to have more and more freedom to do things. But in the case of D Man and other people like him, their freedoms are greatly restricted because of our perception of their abilities. Now, I understand while I'm saying this, these same sort of arguments could also be used for people who are literal pedophiles who say, we want the kids want it and we want it. They can agree. You get what I'm saying? Like, I understand that these arguments could be used the same thing, but I would never, under any circumstances, defend that sort of thinking, right? Because that's not okay. But I'm saying, like, at what point do we actually open up the door to possibility that people who are grown adults, that society has always viewed as adults by their age and whatnot, that they could have more possibilities in life? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think, like, the things for D-Man also, like, got taken away because of Anna's irresponsibility.
hmm
Because I feel like, if people are actually mentally capable of giving consent, but they're like, they have other disabilities, then this issue of, like, sexual relationships should be educative, and it should be, like, very, very sensitive and slow,
hmm
because, like, they have to, I don't know, like, and it should be objective. Like, Anna took control of every part of his life, from
hmm
what he eats to what music he listens to, and also, like, taking control of the consent part,
hmm
where, like, more ethical and objective thing to do would be, like, have someone, like, educate him on it, or maybe talk to his family
But
first,
but the
and maybe his brother could, like, educate him and stuff like that. So
But the
it's
thing
like,
about D Man is that he never was able to consent to anything in his life. His whole family said he loves gospel music, but that's because that's all y'all played in the house and that's all y'all allowed him to listen to. He loves fried chicken because that's all y'all fed him. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, you're saying like, okay, Anna is taking away his ability to consent, but his parents, his mama did too, his brother did too to some degree. Now I understand they're the ones taking care of him, a person who could not survive by themselves. But saying like, okay, D Man didn't consent to this. When did he ever consent to anything?
I mean, Simon, even if you're a person who can communicate, you get influenced by your parents and your
Mm-hmm.
family conditions. Like, if my I don't know, if my parents listen to gospel music all the time, then I would probably like gospel music to a degree, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you get influenced by your parents in every case.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just mm, like even if it was through facilitated communication, she should have like seeked out for more opinions and more people to help D-Man, so she could know like for sure that he's aware of what he's doing.
Right.
Because
Right.
like also she was planning to leave her husband and like get a divorce and like all of those crazy things as well.
Yeah.
Like she just threw it away.
Yo, would the husband be wrong to fight D Man if D Man slept with his wife?
Yes.
But that's another thing. D Man got to take that responsibility too.
But that's the thing. Like he probably doesn't know. Like he's taking that responsibility. You know.
You- wow, this is wow. This is the only joke I'm gonna make. You think D Man would still hit it if he knew she was married, or you think he did it because he knew she was married?
Wow. I mean, I kind of think this was sexual assault. So
Yeah, I want to make it clear too. Like, oh man, it's hard. Okay, I believe that. Yeah, what happened to D Man was wrong. Um, Flat out, like it should not have happened. Knowing that facilitated community, I'm surprised they even allowed him in the classroom if facilitated communication is not even recognized by the American Psychological Association or any reputable organization. Like, why did they allow him in class with basically, a white woman holding his hand on a typewriter? You get what I'm
yeah,
saying? So,
I think there was like some sort of projects going on with facilitated communication in that university.
I see.
So they were like doing this program or something.
Right, right. I do think that there should be that we should think about our relationship to the people who are mentally handicapped, right? And not just continue to view them as, big babies that just need to be, put in diapers, kept in wheelchairs, and forgotten about, right? I do think we should try to maximize the freedoms and encourage independence for these people, and society should try to accept them, right? One of the questions that I ask some of my students, right, who are advanced English speaking students, is like, you know, Mr. Lawyer, would you ever hire a lawyer who was open about their mental disabilities? Like, would you hire an autistic lawyer? Somebody says, I graduated with a law degree, but I do have autism. Or somebody who walked in and said, I have bipolar disorder. And I've gotten a variety of different answers, and it's been interesting. But my opinion should be like, if somebody does have mental health issues, but they're working on it and getting the treatment for it, there shouldn't be discrimination against them in most, if not all, fields. And so I think the same thing should apply as well for how we view the relationships that mentally challenged people could have with what we deem normal people, if that makes sense. Right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, if somebody does have, I think Amy Schumer has like an autistic husband or something like that, right? Which I find very brave of her, right? To be open about that and to be willing to do that for her life. You get what I'm saying? Like, there, just because somebody has a mental disability doesn't mean that they should be deprived of love from non-family members or be able to experience sexuality or carnal pleasure, right? But I do think when it comes to consent, there should be a higher barrier, a higher standard for getting that consent. And I don't think FC is a is a good way to get consent. You hold my hand, like, what I mean?
Yeah.
I hold the girl's hand while she signs a paper saying Simon Hill, uh, you know, consensually took my pussy. Like, that doesn't make sense. No, nobody would accept that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there was also, yeah, I agree with everything you said. And I do think we should like maximize the freedoms and capabilities of, disabled people, but it shouldn't be at the expense of like abusing our authority as, people who are fully capable, who are fully like mentally capable, I guess
Hmm.
is the word. And yeah, and in this case, like she definitely took advantage of her position, of her race, of her gender. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, hey, shall we move on in the story?
Yeah.
All right. So basically, Anna eventually tells D Man's family that she made love to their son, who is mentally handicapped, and the family is aghast. They are shocked. The mother has to sit on her hands and say, "What you did? What now to my son?" And D Man's brother has to go downstairs and just get away from Anna because he's so disgusted. They said, he might have threw up when he first heard about it and stuff like that. And then Anna like kisses D-Man and like walks out of the house like nothing happened, and the whole family is like in shambles and shocked. And you know, basically Anna thinks that they're going to continue their relationship and stuff like that. But then D Man's brother calls her and says, "We don't want you to see Anna anymore. We don't want you to see D Man anymore, Anna." And then Anna starts leaving a bunch of voicemails on D Man's family's phone saying, "I love D Man. I want us to be together. Let's work something out. I'll sign my name in blood that I'll take care of your son. And, let's make him be independent and free and stuff like that." And then the family's like, "Whoa, okay, she's doing too much." And then she even tries to write a letter to the school saying like, D Man's family isn't letting me see him. You know, they're being irresponsible because I can really take care of him or something to that degree. And yeah, when they find out about this, D Man's family calls up Anna's school and D Man's brother goes in there and talks to the dean, and then he starts crying in front of this white woman, and the white woman says, you need to get a lawyer. And then, next thing you know, Anna pulls up to school. She's taken away by the police who start asking her questions about D Man, and then she's fired from the school. What did you think about all of that?
Yeah, that was crazy. Like Anna just went like from 0 to 100, and like the way her mom, his mom, Derek's mom, is talking about how it happened,
Hmm.
like. She sounds very cocky. Like Anna sounds just cocky, and
Hmm.
she said things like, "Yeah, your son is fully a man, like a man's man, or something like
Oh,
that."
wow.
Like she's trying to rub it in their face or something. But
Hmm.
when Anna talks in the interview, she sounds like very reasonable, and she knows how to communicate and whatnot. So it makes me like think, okay, like is she just a really good like liar or something,
Hmm.
because I honestly find the family more genuine than Anna,
Hmm.
also like thinking what she did as well. And but also at the same time, like family, because this is such a harsh thing to hear, maybe they might be affected by their emotions as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's like I don't know who's telling, like who's is more accurate, but that's just a crazy thing to like say and do it, and selfish. Like even if Derek was capable of communicating, now it's gonna get taken away.
Yeah.
Everything is gonna get taken away, and she did not think about like any of that. And she was just like her pussy is on fire or something. Like what are you thinking? It's so like it's just so selfish in my head, and I feel disgusted by her just because of this, that
Yeah.
she was selfish and didn't think of Derek at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the first time I saw it, I was thinking to myself, like, you know, on one hand, like Anna is offering the opportunity for D Man to have a life beyond his family. Because think about it, like D Man most likely will have to live with his mama until the day she dies, and then eventually go to like some institution, and then be left in a corner somewhere by somebody who doesn't care about him. Like, because that's what happens to a lot of mentally challenged people, unfortunately, right? But the reason why men get married to women and women get married to men, or whatever relationship you have, is because we want somebody to be with us until the day we pass on. We want somebody else to take care of us, and we also don't want to be a burden on our parents. So I was thinking, like, on one hand, Anna is saying like, I want to take care of your son, I love your son, and the family is rejecting that. And at first I felt like they were being selfish in a way, like D Man was always their baby. D Man is their brother, their son, and stuff like that. So they want to love him. But yeah, walking up to D-Man's mom and saying, "Your son is a man. He a man, man." He made me say, "Damn, he hit the bottom." That is wild. You get what I'm saying? So I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, but then, like, on the other hand, you have the possibility of handing your son over to a perpetrator.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, she's gonna take care of her, but is she taking advantage of her, or is it consensual? Like, you don't know that. And
Hmm.
it's like you cannot risk that.
Hmm. Yeah, and the
So
thing is
yeah.
also like in relationships, a lot of relationships end, right? So what if D-Man and Anna end up falling out? So now D-Man has to go back to his mama and stuff like that. Like, and she was a married woman too. Like this married woman is sleeping with your brother who is mentally handicapped, and you are the one who is supposed to take care of him. Like out of all the things to happen, that's a wild situation to be in.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And I can't think about like what also her husband went through, and
Yeah.
like the children went through, cuz that's just crazy. Like your partner leaving you for another person is also completely heart-wrecking.
Hmm.
But then on top of that, them like being accused of being, raping that person, and that person
Hmm.
is like with disability.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's crazy.
It
I
is
feel I
crazy.
felt sorry. Like, I was thinking like about her husband, honestly, like half of the time, as
Yeah.
soon as like she mentioned she was gonna leave them and stuff,
Hmm.
because I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
That is another thing I was thinking about though is like throughout this film they show text from the facilitated communication between Anna and D-Man, but during the sex scenes they never show that text, right? So and also during the scenes when like Anna is talking to the family about what D-Man says about how much he loves Anna, they never show that text either, which sort of makes it hard to believe Anna, if anything, right? Because the text from FC could just be Anna typing her own self, whatever she wants D-Man to say. But like throughout all the times they talk about them making love and they wore, condoms and all the positions they did and stuff like that. None of that is ever verified through FC. We just have Anna's words, if that makes sense. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if that was like a cinematical decision
Mm-hmm.
because in the beginning they do say like all the conversations were recorded
Mm-hmm.
in this machine. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if they just chose not to show it there to create that effect, but yeah,
I think
that
at the
that
very
was
no, I think that would have been the most important part. Because think about this later on in the film when Anna gets sent to jail for sleeping with D-Man. Sorry, spoiler alert. But the reason she gets out of jail is because they use the FC, the text between them, right? That's the way she won her appeal. So at the very least they should have in the film put that on screen if they were going to try to make it more believable that Anna believed this was consensual or that there was written confirmation from D-Man. You get what I'm saying?
yeah. And also one thing I noticed about like those writings, because they write it on the screen like you said,
Uh-huh.
and most of the time they have typos, right?
Mhm.
And or like, I don't know, instead of like Jim, he writes GM and not
Mhm.
without the Y, basically,
Mhm.
and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But then like it's sort of inconsistent, because towards like the end of those like writings on the screen, they become less and less wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because Anna is taking over more, or
Mhm.
because like he's getting more educated. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot tell.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like in the beginning, they were very, typo riddled, but then at the end, it was like Shakespearean. It was
Yeah.
very funny. But yeah, do you think? No, let's be real. We're talking about like we watched this movie the first time and we were like, I was so shocked when it happened when D Man slept with Anna. When we watched this the first time, we were like, yeah, go D. We were like, go D Man, get it. You get what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
don't
no, definitely. We were all rooting for D Man and his sexual liberation, because like it's also like the way Anna is telling the story too.
know.
Like she's telling, "Oh, I'm just giving him what he wants because he's a man and he can
Yeah.
like make his own decisions and he
Right.
can think for himself." So we kind of like get go down in that
Right.
spiral where we feel bad for D-Man and we feel
Hmm.
like he's like us
Uh-huh.
and that he has sexual needs and stuff, so we feel
Right.
happy for him.
Right. The first time we watched it, there was that, sort of rooting for him. But then the second time you watch it, you feel like, definitely he's getting abused and taken advantage of, which is what I do believe. And I also do think there is that racial component too, where this white woman is taking advantage of this, disadvantaged black man, right? And that's a historical thing that has always happened in America, right? Like the dominant white society has raped black people consistently for hundreds of years. Literally, that is not metaphorical rape. Like literally raped black women, black men as a part of our oppression. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
seeing it the second time, you think about those things too. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I think it made it easier for her to make those decisions in her head.
Mm. In some sick, twisted way, right? Because she's like supposed to be the well-meaning, like white liberal lady, but
Yeah.
in a way, she is doing that. Oh wow. But yeah, when Anna tells D Man's family that she had sex with their son, their brother, the smart older brother says, you know what, let me look into FC. And then they show this documentary where basically this other psychologist did a bunch of experiments testing to see if FC was real. And his conclusion was that it wasn't, because he would do this. He would show a picture of like a hat to the person who is mentally challenged, and then he would show a picture of a dog to the facilitator. And then every time he did that, the facilitator wrote dog, even though the person who needed the facilitation saw a hat or something like that. So, the person basically came to the conclusion like all of this FC stuff is not real and it's been discredited for a long time. And so when the brother saw that, he was like shocked. And he realized that he had just been taken for a big long ride. But I wonder why it took so long to figure that out. Like you would think you would have done more research, but I don't know. What did you think about that reveal? The first time we saw it, the second time, when they showed FC is not real.
Yeah, I think that was like a really powerful part of the, thing as well, like the documentary, because like it's so simple, right? Like the way he proves it, he shows different pictures and the picture that the facilitator sees gets written down.
Hmm.
Like there's no way around it.
Hmm.
So it's like, yeah, you kind of like have to believe that this thing is fake.
Hmm.
And there's like a huge facilitator effect at the very least. But like the first time I saw, and also the second time I saw, I was thinking, okay, like, yes, there is a facilitator effect, but I do think maybe there is some contribution from the patient, like from the
Hmm.
person who with the disability, and maybe not all of it is a lie.
Hmm.
And I still wanted to like root for D-Man, I still wanted to think, okay, he can say certain things and maybe not all the things he
Yeah.
said were from him, but some of them was from him.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, and I don't know like about why he didn't make that research before. I
Hmm.
think like he was also admiring Anna in the beginning
Hmm.
because she was one of his professors.
Hmm.
And I also he was happy that like his brother was capable of going to school and doing those things, so he was like in that joyride of being a proud brother, I think.
Yeah.
And then when all of those like shitty things started to happen, like that woke him up.
Right, right. I think he just genuinely had a trust of his educator, right? Like, how could this woman make it to this high level of, professor, PhD, and she's just able to fool all of us with this disproven science? But once again, I think it's about what people want to believe. And I think that's one of the big problems of like how D-Man's family interacted with him. Like, they were okay with him going to school. They were okay with him being in class because they believed that was possible, but they didn't want to believe it was possible for him to have sex, for him to have romance, for him to fall in love, and for him to, knock down his teachers to some degree. Now, that might be problematic, but that's just how I'm looking at it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but like how even if this psychologist who did the experiment wanted to believe that FC was bullshit, the participants didn't know about it.
Hmm.
So, like, there couldn't be that sort of effect in that research, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be in the case of like Derek.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anna basically gets arrested. They lock her ass up.
And also, wait, there's also this conversation where like Derek's mom calls her,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
after like a long time, and she basically tells her like, oh, Derek is not feeling good, like he's been fidgeting and I think he misses you. Can you
Hmm.
like tell me exactly how many times you guys had sex? And
Oh yeah.
Anna is like this naive girl, I guess, naive
Hmm.
woman, and she's like, of course I'll tell you everything with every detail.
Wow.
And yeah, she basically says like we had sex 2 times, and one of them like was in my office. I laid down like a yoga mat and a towel, and I just rode him.
Wow. Wow.
And sorry, but that's what like she says, very just like without
Bluntly.
any hesitation. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was crazy to me as well.
That is insane. Like, I really like how this documentary goes into detail like that, because that's back in your mind. Those are the questions you want answered. Like, how did you find a way to have sex with this man with cerebral palsy? But there has to be some disgust that you also have too, because this is rape at the end of the day. And by the way, I want to say, like, this is not okay under any circumstances to, like, sleep with people like this or take advantage of people like this. And as a teacher too, because I teach English, I've never been, wanting to desire my students like that, or I tried to come on to my students like that. When you're a teacher, you should have like some respect for your profession and for your students too. And what
Yeah.
Anna did is wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also like, they also ask her like, at any time like during your relationship with Derek, did you feel like maybe it was possible that, you created stuff? And she just says no.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also very silly to think, because I question like everything I think, not in a way that is like I'm doubting myself, but I have to question like, is this my perception only? Am
Mm.
I, able to look from other perspectives? I just question. I mean, this is like, critical thinking and questioning stuff. You cannot
Yeah.
believe everything that you think or hear or read, and
Hmm.
she's like basically lacking that, and I just
Hmm.
cannot imagine myself being in her situation and not being able to question like if this is real.
Yeah, for somebody who said that she's so empathetic to people with mental disabilities and she wants to help them and she doesn't view them as lesser than people, she did lack a lot of, critical thinking and awareness of herself. You get what I'm saying? By, thinking that, oh, yeah, it's just consensual. He wrote it and it's okay. Like, there is no power imbalance. Like, she didn't actually think deep enough about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And that was also one of the reasons why I think like, okay, maybe FC is bullshit and
Yeah.
she's bullshitting.
Maybe, maybe. But let's go on. So basically, Anna gets arrested. They charge her with sleeping with, a mentally handicapped person, a person who cannot consent. And, she has a trial. And I believe a lot of women were on her jury. And, her defense was not able to submit the FC documents. So basically, all the conversations between D Man and Anna were not allowed as evidence to support her claim that it was consensual. She defended her innocence up until the case and even afterwards. But so the way they make it seem in the documentary, what sealed the deal is that D Man couldn't take the stand to give his account, but his family walked him in to the courtroom in front of the jury and the judge and everybody there. And when they saw this, 5'4" mentally handicapped man needing his mother to walk through with every step, everybody was just like, oh, how could you do that? You get what I'm saying? And yeah, basically, Anna got sentenced to 12 years in jail. 12 years in jail. But that white privilege kicked in at the very end. I was like, how is this white woman getting the worst end of the stick at every single case? But then at the very end, her white privilege kicked in. And so she spent 2 years in jail. after being convicted of raping this man. And yeah, she was let out, and now she's living in like a decent middle class home, chopping cherry tomatoes while working online. And meanwhile, Derek is like, still living with his family, wearing a diaper. He masturbates a lot now, and his mother is like, still upset that Anna, raped her son, and the brother is still upset too that all of that happened. What did you think about the end of the film?
Yeah, the ending like leaves me in such a, like, I don't know, dilemma, because on one hand I feel like, okay, she got what she deserved and she caused a lot of pain for this family, and she, raped a person who was mentally disabled, and then but then like she also got out early and stuff like that. So on one hand I was thinking, okay, like, justice was served to some degree.
Mm,
But on the other hand, I can't help but feel sorry for D Man, because I have that what if, right?
mhm,
Like, what if he was really able to communicate his, like, what if he was really like communicating his thoughts to a degree?
mhm,
Like, I acknowledge that there was the facilitator effect, but what if like he is capable to a degree to
mhm,
have, like, these mental processes, and
yeah,
now everything is taken away from him, and he's like, once again treated like a baby, and on top of that now he has to deal with like also sexual desires as well.
mhm,
And I can't help but like feel bad for Derek, that he's stuck in his condition. He's like a
yeah.
prisoner of his condition.
Yeah, it's a sad feeling at the end because even though justice was served, it feels like they're back now to square one because the brother says, I had to stop believing that all of that stuff about D Man was true. He isn't actually, intellectual. He isn't actually smart. He is what he is. He is, stupid. He is retarded or whatever, right? However you want to frame it. And there was another thing that happened that I skipped over. It's that one of the psychologists came, the guy from the documentary who, proved that FC was false. He sat down with D Man for 2 hours and said, yep, he is mentally retarded. He is, not smart. He has the brain of a 6 year old and stuff like that. And a part of me was like brokenhearted about that because once again, I still want to believe that there's something special about D Man. And on top of that, I know that in America there is a history, there's a pattern of psychologists and scientists deeming black people to be less intelligent. The majority of kids who are assigned to special ed classes and remedial classes in high schools all across America are young black males. For since the beginning of psychology, right? They used to practice phrenology, where they would measure the sizes of skulls, and because of black people's different sized skulls, so they say, we are naturally less intelligent, or we have a segment of the brain that makes us more prone to be violent or sexually deviant and stuff like that. So there's a history and a pattern of white men who claim to be smarter than us saying that we're stupid. You get what I'm saying? So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but it still is disheartening that at least in D-Man's case, that might be true. After all the hope and all the buildup that was in this film for that. And the last thing I just wanted to say is that if FC is proven false, why do all those other like white people who got degrees using FC get to keep them, but D-Man isn't able to finish his with FC? You get what I'm saying? And that's all.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely like, earlier this year I actually like learned about the, you know, racial discrimination in like science and also like in psychology today. Cuz
Hmm.
I knew like, yes, there were arguments before, like all these like racist ideas and stuff like that, but I didn't think that it was still like happening today. And you remember I had an IQ class, and we had like a conversation about IQ and stuff, and that made me really like see, okay, like, whoa. And these things still happen today.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just like, the first time I watched it I was like, okay, like if he's saying, you know he's mentally incapable, then like yeah, I guess it's true because he did like an assessment. But then also second time watching it, I didn't think his assessment was like enough, because he basically showed him, they don't give too much detail, but they tell us that they he showed him pictures and asked him to point to things, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But the thing is, like, he has cerebral palsy. He cannot control his motion.
Hmm.
So, like, uh, just because he cannot point to the cup when you say cup, it's like it doesn't mean he's not thinking about pointing to the cup, but
Hmm.
he just can't. I don't know if he did any other sort of intelligent assessments, but from what they showed us, I thought that was just not enough. And maybe I still want to believe in D-Man. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. At the end of this film, you're like wondering, what do you still believe? What do you still hold? Where's the justice in all of this? And walking away from this film, it still makes me ask a lot of questions. This film will stay with me in my mind for a long time. It's one of the rare cases where a black man hollers rape against a white woman, and the white woman goes to jail. In American history, it's always been the reverse. Funny to see how times have changed. I guess Obama really did change America.
Wow.
But yeah, I really love this documentary. I mean, we could talk about it for hours and hours and hours. They ask so many questions in this thing. But yeah, I got to give this a score of like a 9 or a 9.5, honestly, because that's how great of a doc it is to me.
Yeah, definitely. No, I also want to give it a 9 as well.
Hmm.
Or even like a 10, because I don't know what I could take out of, but maybe a 9 because I did wanted more information on certain things.
Like
Like
what?
like for example, Anna's relationship with her husband,
Hmm.
or like I don't know, like uh, more like history of Derek's assessments and things like that. And maybe
Hmm.
that would be too scientific, but you know, as someone who knows somewhat like scientific knowledge about these things, I did wanted more proof
Hmm.
of Derek's like incapabilities and capabilities.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I wish they did something like that, but other than that, it was like truly interesting, very different concept,
Hmm.
because I don't think I watch a lot of things about disabled people,
Hmm.
especially like mentally disabled people.
Hmm.
So yeah, like it was definitely mind warping and eye opening and educational, and yeah, it made me
And a
think
bit
of like,
raunchy, a bit sexual.
yeah, like even like funny at moments because of like that sort of relationship they had. Not that it's
Yeah.
funny, but
Yeah.
just the way it was portrayed.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to call it funny because on one hand, like we said, we find it weird that a man could be raped, right? And even now, you'll have jokes where men say, "Oh man, these girls jumped all over me. It's like they were raping me or something." Like we treat that as something light, but it should be something serious we consider. But I the number one thing I walk away with this film is like, you know, I don't. There's nothing else I would want to add or want to really know. I guess maybe I would like to know about Anna's husband, but I think everybody who wanted to be involved in this film was involved. And we honestly didn't need more players because really it's just the story of D Man, his family, and Anna. And bringing in Anna's husband, what's he going to say? Like, I'm still waiting to find D Man. I'm
Wait,
going to knock him out.
I wanted to ask you a question. I forgot.
Oh, tell
Uh,
me now.
so like in the courts, uh Anna's husband wrote like a letter to court
Hmm.
saying that Anna was a liar, she was a narcissistic, and that like she caused so much pain like to Derek and his family and stuff like that.
Mm.
And he basically like trashed Anna.
Mm.
uh if you were Anna's husband, like let's say we're together, we have kids, right? 3 kids, and then I leave you for like a patient who's disabled, and then it turns out like I raped him, god forbid. Oh my god,
Oh, God.
it makes me so bad even saying this. But just think that it happened. What would you do? Like, would you do the same thing?
Oh no, I'm not gonna snitch on you, but Nah, I'm not writing no letters to the court trashing you and stuff like that. But I mean, it depends if you like hurt me as well. Like, if you cheat on me, that hurts. But bringing the court into it and all that stuff, no, I'm not going to get involved. But you made your own bed. The day you decided to give D man head, you're in it. You're on by yourself now. You get what I'm saying? I can't.
Mm.
I can't. What do I look like writing a letter? Judge, she broke my heart.
I mean, but I also, like, committed a crime. I sexually assaulted a patient.
Yeah, but I mean, you know how I am. Fuck the police.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
noble, but wrong. You should snitch me.
I mean, no, I wouldn't. No, if you get caught by yourself, you get what I'm saying. But no, if I found out that you did do that, I would definitely leave you. But whatever happens after I leave, that's what happens. I'm not gonna put more
Mm.
pain on you. I'm not calling the police for nothing.
Aw,
Yeah.
so nice.
So you're saying you're happy that I wouldn't snitch that you're a rapist?
I mean, I'm happy that I can trust you, but what I did was still fucked up. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, I need to be punished.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, D man can punish you. He can give you a spank.
No, wow, not like that.
Oh man, but once again, I just really have to get this out here. Like whatever we think, whatever we believe is how we treat and view people, right? Like the reason black people or white people are treated a certain way in this world is because of the views that we just hold about them, right? If we lived in an alternate universe where black people were treated like white people and white people were treated like black people, we would have different outcomes for so many things. Just the continent of Africa itself would be treated entirely differently. You get what I'm saying? So like when it comes to D Man and how people viewed and treated him, there was a 180-degree turn from one day he's sitting in his room in a diaper, nobody cares about him really except his family. The next day he's doing a conference in front of 100 people and they're listening to what he has to say, supposedly through facilitated communication. Now, whether facilitated communication is real or not, just the fact that people were sitting there listening to him and thinking that what he has to say is important does show the difference, right? Because power and meaning to anything is just about perception, right? The dollar bill, the $100 bill doesn't mean anything unless we say it's worth, this TV or this shirt or whatever, right? The car doesn't mean anything unless we identify it as a car and give it meaning, right? So yeah, it's the same thing for with people as well, and that's the number one thing I walk away with this film from. Because we
Yeah,
we walk past these type of people every day and we view them as less than or not important. But if we lived in an alternate world where those people were seen as like, you know, connections to the spirit world, or they were seen as hidden geniuses, then we would live in a totally different universe. Do you get what I'm saying?
yeah. No, I definitely agree, and this is also something that I walk away with from this movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like our, the physical perception that we get from our world, whether if it's like whether if you're looking at a black person, whether if you're looking at a person with autism or a woman, whoever, like, you have to keep in mind that that's just very subjective,
Mm-mm.
and it gets affected by history, by our societies, and by our own belief systems within us, whether
Yeah.
it's conscious or unconscious. So you
Exactly.
always have to be critical about what you're thinking, and also you have to be critical about like what others say are true as well, like
Exactly.
science, like psychology, and like your teachers, your parents. Like,
Mm.
you have to challenge thoughts and yourself, and that's what I got from this movie.
Absolutely. All right. So, yeah, my final score 9.5. I think you gave it a 9.
Yeah,
Would you recommend it?
definitely, like, even if you're not interested in these sorts of topics, it's still a very mind-opening documentary,
Very,
so you should
very.
see it.
All right. So, this has been episode 46 of Simon and Acting Movie Reviews. Send movies, send recommendations, send them in the chat, in the comments, description, whatever you want to put it. Follow us on Cinema Crossroads on Spotify. Simon Hill Keeps It Trill on YouTube. Backpack Bandits, our travel content. That's all for today. Peace.